Kermit the Frog here. Welcome to a new episode of How Do We Human? Kermit? How's this going?
It's great. How many other
Is it
Muppets
good?
can you do?
That might be it.
Really?
Name another Muppet.
Beaker.
Me.
See? Yeah, that was a softball.
Yeah, that was good shit. We're talking about voices today on a new episode of How Do We Human? It's the podcast where we overanalyze and
Nope, just the
where'd
one.
I go wrong? Just the one?
Yep.
It's where we overanalyze all the weird and uncomfortable micro moments.
There you go. You got it.
I'm one of your hosts, Evan Cox.
We've only done this 230 something times.
And who are you? Whose voice am I hearing?
Oh my god, I'm one of your hosts, Chris Binning.
Wow, we've only done this 230 times. And I'm one of your hosts, Kermit the Frog. Is it the Frog or is his middle initial D? You ever thought about that?
Absolutely Kermit the Frog.
Kermit D. Frog.
No, the Frog. The
What if
Frog.
it is? Maybe it is. Add a little wonder to
been-
your life.
It's been transcribed incorrectly for
Possibly.
decades by the Jim Henson Company. I
Jim
don't
never told
think
anyone.
So Jim
Thanks,
never
Kermit.
told anyone.
Kermit Dingleberry Frog. We're talking about voices today. That's why I was doing some voices. I couldn't think of anything else to do. It seemed like the right thing to do. But we're mostly talking about our voices, your voices, the sound of voices, voices in general. We got them. You love them. You're listening to them right now here on Classic K-Rock.
Fizzled out there at the end.
Sure did. Before we get into that, Chris.
Yes.
How you doing?
Doing all right. The thing that I was going to talk about today, when consulting my notes yet again, I realized actually fits with the main topic. So
Hey!
this is going to be a very brief thing because it's not really a story. But I was driving to work and I saw I was behind like a truck for a company. Okay. And we just a couple episodes ago did an episode about milk.
Yes.
And I'm going to give you this company name, but I'm going to remove the like thing that they sell from their company name. And I want you to try to guess what this company, what the missing word is.
Okay.
The company name is Milkman blank company. Milkman blank company. What do you think they sell?
The way you're leading me makes me think it's not even milk related. So it's just like the milkman water. The milkman company. The milkman water company.
Final answer?
Yeah.
Sorry, the correct answer was Milkman Toner Company.
Toner?
They sell toner.
As in like makeup or as in ink?
As in printer ink.
Printer ink. Wow.
Yes.
Milkman. You got confused.
You got confused.
You're doing the wrong job. Was the logo at least like a milkman with bottles of milk, but they were red and cyan and
it's a silhouette logo. Here, I'll share my screen with you right now.
Silhouette. I hardly know her.
It's what? So as you can see,
good.
when it loads here, it's just the silhouette of a milkman, but carrying milk bottles. It's not. He's not carrying printer ink toner.
No.
Genuinely,
I think it was this exact logo, but this is what I had in mind. But those three bottles would be magenta, cyan, and yellow. The chief colors in printer ink outside of black and white.
Well,
White,
you can comment on their Facebook post and
oh, I will.
Let
This
them
is
know.
a Facebook post. One day after September 11th.
Yeah, in the shadow of 9/11.
Here comes the
The
milkman.
milkman cometh.
That's amazing. It's been a while since we've done a little takedown of a small company.
Yeah, it's about time.
Fuck off, milkman toner.
Overdue.
You got yours.
Evan,
Yeah.
how you doing?
I'm doing all right. I had a run in the other day. You know,
Yeah, let it out.
you know, oh man, you ever yawn and have to like catch your breath?
Nope.
Weird. The other day, well, no, I want to start it here. As I've said in the bit, I like attempting to learn languages. I love me some Duolingo. I think it's a fun little, I don't know, thing to do on the side. I'm never hyper focused on like, I need to get so good at this language. But I feel like, any little brushing up I can do on my Spanish is nice. Recently, I started learning how to, learning Korean lettering. Letters, because I was just looking at their lettering, and I'm like, man, that's really cool looking. I want to learn how to do that, so I'm working on that. That's been fun. But Spanish language, I took 2 years of in high school, and it was like, I'm carrying that to the bank, and that will be my bed of Spanish. And I've been, just honing over the years, but I still, I can't hold a conversation, but I know enough words that often I can at least comprehend what someone is saying to me and then work my way through it from there. So I'm walking my dog. Here.
Right.
And there's two people standing there talking. One of them also has a dog. So as will happen when I'm walking by my dog, my dog wants to smell that dog. And my dog goes and smells that dog. So now I'm standing here with these two people. They were speaking Spanish to one another. They both thought my dog was the cutest. And they were right. My dog is the cutest dog that's ever existed. And they were, bushy to my little dog. And so the younger woman, bilingual, English and Spanish. The older woman just speaks Spanish. And she looked at me and said to me, Niño o niña, meaning, is she a boy or a girl?
Mm-hmm.
I know what this means. And I said, Niña.
And you just said,
a girl.
Bitch.
She's so... Does she look like a bitch? I just started doing Pulp Fiction for her.
Yeah.
She loved it.
I
And I was like,
it
Spanish.
it transcends the English language.
I said Nina because she's a girl. But I think I said it too quietly because the young woman who speaks English also says to me, she's asking if she's a boy or a girl. Like I'm some idiot.
Right.
I'm like, I already answered. I did it. I succeeded. This was a very basic Spanish conversation and I succeeded. And someone still had to undercut me and translate boy or girl. And she was being totally nice about it. But man, I was seething inside. I was like, I had my moment. That's the biggest moment I've had since just generally saying buenos dias to people. I got asked a question in Spanish and I responded correctly.
Yeah.
Brutal.
But it wasn't
Hated
enough.
it.
Yeah.
Hated it. Such a bummer. And I left in shame.
As you should.
Yeah. It's ironic that I said that too quietly because I've said before, I have a very loud voice.
Voice, yes. That's the topic. He segued.
I segued. It's hard being a thoroughly introverted person with a voice that sounds like this guy wants to talk.
Yes, and perhaps no better example of that
Yes.
than this past weekend. You and I, along with my fiance, went to see an improv show.
Correct. Classic
And
us.
they sell out this show every time they do it seems like.
Yeah.
So every seat is full.
Yeah.
Right, and we got there, you better believe it, super early.
You know it.
So we got fairly good seats in the center of a row, and so we are waiting for people to fill in on both sides, and somebody sits down next to you, somebody else sits down next to my fiance. I'm, of course, in the middle of the three of us. And we start talking about board games. And it's we're talking about different board games that we like to play, and could we do a double date at a board game cafe here in LA. And the guy next to you, who came to the show by himself, just starts chiming in like he's one of the gang. And that's fine. Like, I understand wanting to not be alone at the comedy show and wanting to make friends. I get it. But then it just we were just kind of stuck in like have you finished your contribution, or are you part of, are we like, do we have to claim you now as one of ours? Like, what's going on here?
Unfortunately, I was the one on the side of him. So you two were eventually able to splinter off.
Yeah, that was the thing that was tough.
And talked.
It was tough because because we were all in a line.
Yeah.
It like we couldn't all talk to him.
Right.
It was like I could either block my fiance out so that she has no one to talk to, or I could leave you to talk to him.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
Which, and I don't know, maybe we both felt this way. Maybe this is the definition of just me being super self-conscious about my own voice. But I feel like if that was just a normal conversation and there wasn't somebody at the table going, I like Monopoly, everyone in the theater could hear, maybe he wouldn't have heard the entire conversation and chimed in.
I was wondering about that too, because it didn't feel like you were talking very loud.
Okay.
The week before that, I had gone to a birthday dinner at a Korean barbecue.
Oh, hell yeah.
Restaurant. And there were some
I could sound out the name of.
Great. I knew very few people who were there. Mm-hmm. I knew the person whose birthday it was. My fiance came with me, so I knew her too. And then I knew one other guy, and that was it, out of a group of like 10 or 12. And tough. A lot of these strangers had very loud voices to the point where like I can project my voice, but I feel like in a restaurant or something like that, I feel like I'm generally aware of like the difference between an indoor and an outdoor voice. And these people kind of felt like they all had outdoor voices. And I was like getting self-conscious because I was at a table with them, of like the restaurant staff and the other people eating here must not be happy about this.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the thing. That's me. And it sucks. I hate it. And I get that feeling. I get that vibe when people are like, this is not the place to be talking as loud as you're talking. But I can't help it. I hear
Yeah.
myself and I'm just like, I can't stop it. This train left the station. I'm doing it right now. Pretty fucking loud. And I'm just talking to you over the computer. I don't need to. I could talk at this level. This is nice.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
But I don't know. I get very, very it upsets me when I am shushed. I don't like to be told I'm being too loud. It makes me very, very sad. And then I just shut up. And I don't know. Is that like, I don't want to feel like me being just me is too much for everyone. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because
Yes.
I am a person that doesn't like being me. I try to be down here, but just on this specific front, I'm up here and my voice carries across a restaurant. So I don't know. I get it on both ends. I feel bad for both parties, and y'all should have just all backed away from the table and been like, "This isn't gonna work."
Yeah.
Do you feel like your voice is just, you've got the perfect voice right there, or do you feel ever like your voice doesn't carry, or you get too loud, like trying, say, at that situation, if the person you knew was across the table from you, do you feel
Yeah.
comfortable like they'll hear me even though these people are louder?
Yes. I think that in terms of volume, I'm pretty good um uh with my voice. I do There are other people, like I feel like my fiance can have a pretty quiet voice.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes I have to be like, "What?" But in general, I feel like my own voice um is a pretty good volume. The issue that I have with my voice, and it doesn't happen too often on this podcast. It's happened a couple times, but like this podcast is like where the time of my day or of my week where like I hydrate the best. Um and like anywhere outside of this podcast I don't do a very good
Hey.
job. So my voice will crack sometimes,
Yeah.
which is where I have more self-consciousness, and it's mostly when am dehydrated,
Interesting.
sometimes when I'm tired, but mostly dehydrated is what I've found. And it always, not always, but it often seems to happen at work when I get on the PA system or when I get on the walkie-talkie like radio.
Oh no.
Yeah. Those are the times where it seems to happen more often,
Damn.
which is very frustrating. Yeah.
There is that, which also sucks because we know from 200 some episodes ago, you love talking on a walkie-talkie. You
I
love giving
do.
announcements.
I do.
Damn. Brutal.
Yeah. Do you have many not necessarily
Krakens?
voice cracks, but other things about your own voice that you feel self-conscious about?
Well, certainly. I mean, the voice cracking doesn't happen very often anymore. Uh, so it's like when it does happen, I enjoy it because it makes me smile. So I'm like, where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah.
Ah. Um, for me, it's more of a, I don't know. I could talk the entire episode about my voice. Is this a level of like narcissism where we're just using our voices to talk about our voices and being like, who wants to listen to this? Here you go.
Whoa.
But like, I feel like my voice curves kind of at the end of I'm not a full like froggy voice, but it is, it's deep in that kind of froggy register. And so in that respect, I don't love that about it. I mean, I think we can have a whole section talking about everyone hates the sound of their voice, like hearing their voice back recorded. Which honestly, there's a part of me that I feel like doing this podcast as often as we've done, I've gotten so used to it that I'm not thinking about it anymore.
That's
I don't
how I
know. Where are
feel
you
too.
on it?
I feel very similarly. I mean, between doing this podcast and when I was doing a lot of like YouTube video things,
Yeah.
where I was talking to the camera and then I'd have to edit them and do all that stuff. I've gotten pretty used to the sound of my own voice. It definitely doesn't always sound like back to me the way that I think it's
Yeah.
coming out. Um which I think it sounds better to me when I'm talking than when I listen back to it, which I think is how most people feel.
Yeah.
But I've gotten pretty used to how it sounds. I've mentioned this before, but people used to comment on some of those YouTube videos, and even a couple times when I've done like announcements and things at work, people will be like, "You sound like David Schwimmer," and like I don't
Oh,
hear that at all.
interesting.
Yeah.
I can see the stretch made to get there. I do
Okay.
not hear David Schwimmer in your voice, but I could see how people would make a weird leap in that
Yeah.
direction, I guess. I don't know. You're definitely not a Ross, but
Yeah. Exactly.
no, I mean, yeah, looking back at recording that first episode, that was rough for me editing that back. It was just like, what am I doing? And I mean, I record my voice constantly for someone that hates the sound of their own voice. And that's true with my music too, that I don't at all like the sound of my singing voice. But
I
I'm
was going to
like,
ask about this.
I was going to say, same. I don't like your singing voice.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I hate it. But like, it is at a certain point, it's just like, yeah, that's the. I don't know. I'm making the music anyways. I don't want, and it's like other people seem to like my singing voice, so there you go. And like my sister will send me shit like multiple times. She's sent me other artists, and she's like, "You sound a lot like this artist." And I'll listen to him, and he's got like a great voice. I'm like,
Okay.
yeah, but that's not what I sound like. I sound
Yeah.
like this.
That's why your first album was just 18 covers of Rainbow Connection, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it ain't easy being green.
I was gonna ask not only about singing voice, but this segues a little bit into like, when you're writing something, whether it's a song or a script or even an essay, people always say like, "Hey, write in your voice."
Yeah,
Do
sure.
you feel like that's something that what your writing voice is, or do you feel like you're able to distinguish reading other people's voices? How do you feel about
Yeah.
that?
I honestly, again, just gonna shout out this podcast I love called How Do We Human.
Great.
That has really made me, because I believe it or not, we did improv for several
Yeah, have we
years.
ever talked about
Have we
that?
mentioned that before? But that is a big part of it, is finding your comedic voice. And I do an improv for a little over 3 years. I never felt like I did find my comedic voice. And I'm trying to do stand up in particular. That was like, you end up going up there and then you're telling these jokes that like you wrote and realizing like this isn't me.
Yeah.
And I would record myself, and I have those recordings, and no one will ever hear them.
Post them to Instagram.
No. Maybe one day when I'm an old man. I have the recording. I have the audio. Maybe someday the audio of me doing. I think it was my first open mic when the mic cable dropped out in the middle of my
Oh
set.
yeah, nice.
I have the audio from that. But anyways, so I just never felt like I know I'm funny, but anytime I would try to write anything or do anything like that, I'm like, nah, I sound like someone else. But doing so many episodes of this podcast, I'm like, oh, that's it. That's how I'm funny, is when I'm listening back to these episodes. Because, hey, I crack myself up. And it's not, I feel like, and I'd say that for both of us. Like, I don't feel like either of us, when we're like really cooking on this podcast, it doesn't feel like, we'll joke around about like, maybe we stole a little bit of this idea from Comedy Bang Bang. Oh, what?
Yeah.
Come for us. But like when we're both like really going, like I feel like that is we each have our unique voice and sense of humor, and I feel like that comes out clearly on this podcast. I have an impossible time getting that to come out in writing. I don't know why. Probably lack of practice. I don't write much anymore. My writing always comes off to me like this is 60% my voice, I'd say.
Okay.
More than half.
That's not bad.
But it's still not like something I would read or someone else would read and go like, that's Evan.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't written in a couple weeks because I've been working on a video for my YouTube channel. But every time I open that project, I do like two things, and then I get bored, and then I exit out. So
Yeah.
it's taking a longer time than it probably should. But then my plan is to get back into doing a little bit of writing, maybe even take a crack at adapting a script that I've written into a novel.
Fun.
To try and do something that way. I think that in general, I kind of found my like comedic voice a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
At least in terms of writing, I can't always do it in improv. But in writing, I can generally get my comedic voice across. Um, and most of the scripts I write with a partner at this point. And so I can, when I'm going back and kind of combing through, I can generally tell which part was me and which part was him.
Yeah.
And then it's just a matter of trying to blend them together. Um, but you keep bringing stuff up that makes me want to segue, because you mentioned that yours is like 60% your voice,
Yeah.
and I've found that like this is true in like writing, this is true in like performance and like public speaking stuff, and it's even true in conversation,
Mm.
where there are like influences, we'll say,
Yeah.
that I just kind of like take and adapt into my own
Totally.
voice. So like you mentioned, like, oh, the thing we stole from Comedy Bang Bang, like generally in my intro, when it's my turn to do the intro, um I'll do whatever the intro thing is, and then I'll kind of like the cadence that I use for Welcome to How Do We Human is very similar to the cadence for Welcome to Comedy Bang Bang. So it's things like that. When I
Yeah.
was in speech and debate, um, most of my like delivery was very Stephen Colbert Report esque,
Yeah.
um, which a lot of judges didn't like. And I think looking back on it now, I think it's because at the time when I was doing those speeches, I knew that Stephen Colbert on the Colbert Report was a comedy show,
Yeah.
but I don't think I realized it was like satire at the
Yeah.
time. And so I would be giving a speech with like facts and like trying to make earnest points, but I'm saying it
Like,
in a like satirical
like it's a
character
joke.
voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that was the problem. But in those speech and debate tournaments, a lot of public speaking performers would do the same cadence, and it drove me nuts. I don't know if like we can find something for me to read.
Sure, we can find something for you to read. Oh,
And I'll try and do the cadence because I don't know if I can like um I don't know if I can do it just like off the top of my head. So let me look for something and you let me know if there are cadences that bother you.
what are you looking for? Cold hard facts?
Facts or like a like a transcript of a speech or something.
All right, great speeches. From theartofmanliness.com.
Oh, that'll be great.
Let's see about JFK's decision to go to the moon. This looks good. All right, I'll paste that in the chat for you.
Okay, so this is how, this is if this is a speech from JFK, right?
Yeah.
Everybody kind of knows and has like an idea or an impression of how JFK spoke.
Yes.
And it's not like every single speech and debate competitor in the world. Because they would go, on April 12th, 1961, the Soviets launched the first man into space. Khrushchev used this triumph as prime evidence of communism's superiority over decadent capitalism.
Oh, man.
Embarrassed, the United States feared it was falling behind the Soviet Union and losing the space race. And it's this same like weird cadence over and over again. There are a bunch of like YouTube channels that do this same like video essay
100%.
and it grates on my ears so bad. I know that people complained about my voice in video essays that I had done on my YouTube channel because they were like, you're too monotone, which I could kind of understand. Sometimes that's just the way that my voice falls into.
Sure.
But then when I see that this gets millions of like, views after consulting with political and NASA officials, Kennedy decided it was time for America to boldly go where no man had gone before by putting a man on the moon. It's like, why
it's a lot
it like
of
broken up into 3 words
yeah.
like every time?
It's a lot of what I see. Like my girlfriend looks at TikTok a lot, and she'll just be flipping through videos, and I'll just be hearing the TikTok voice of like I'm reporting facts. It's very similar to that, and I'm like, it feels similar to like follow it, like, if you're just specifically talking about a YouTube channel, like we talked on the YouTube episode where you're specifically making videos just to fit the algorithm and please the algorithm. It feels like that's a way of talking that people have accepted, like, this is the way to give information because you need to enunciate every word and emphasize the right words. This is the TikTok voice, is it not? Am I doing a good job? I gotta get on TikTok. This is good. Which of these men is my baby's father? I had like a kind of a similar, so like to their credit, these people, I had a similar adventure in taking voice lessons when I was, because I've always been told, you've got a voice for radio. Get on the radio, boy. And I'm like, I work in radio, just not the way you would want me to. So I let that get to my head at some point and was like, I should be a voiceover artist.
Yeah.
Let me check this out. There's a school in LA that does it. This was like, yeah, I'm kind of looking to slow down from improv. Let me spend thousands of dollars out at a different school. So,
Yes.
yeah, I edge school, sound like that? I went to school for edging.
Oh, nice.
I think that was
You know what the problem with the school for edging is?
Never get
You
to the
never get to
point.
finish.
we
You're in
both
school
get there.
forever.
Yeah, I mean that's true for UCB. So,
Is UCB the school for edging?
Maybe the way I did it was get to the point. So they did a free.
You thought you were close, and then
I was close,
and then it stopped.
and it just stopped. Every fucking time. They did a free little workshop for intro to voice acting, and there was a vocal coach there, and they will tell you honestly if they think you have any remote potential. And obviously there's a level of like, are you just going to tell everyone you've got potential and they
Right.
spend their money?
Make
Maybe
sure everybody's checks cleared, and yes, everybody has potential.
I can't say there were people in that group that were told, no, no, you do not have potential. They did it privately, but as we were all leaving, people were talking. So, honest, I guess. Similar to that Improv 101 thing, because we were all sitting there. People would go into the booth and read an ad read. They teach you how to read it, how to emphasize the right words. Because similarly, you're getting a message across for a brand. You want to sound conversational, but you still have to hit those marks. And listening to other people do it, and then going in and doing it myself, I was like, I think I am pretty good at this. Oh, not bad. I got a lot of good feedback. She would direct me to do things differently. I took direction well. I was like, all right, I might be interested in this. This could be like a career. Who doesn't love the idea of working in voice acting? That sounds great. The reality is probably not so great, but it sounds great. So I started taking lessons. And then once you're with actual instructors who are not just going like, do you have potential, do you not have potential, and you getting down to the nitty gritty of like, no, you're doing it wrong. It's basically the improv experience. No, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, where you start out thinking you're really good at it, and then you have to question everything you've ever done.
Yes, we've all got that advertiser voice in our head that to a certain degree does talk similar to the way you're doing that speech, where you're emphasizing the right words. How do we human brands? Like, I could be that voice for someone. Water bottles get wet. And you think like, hey, he's got an interesting voice and that sounds professional. Great. Nope. Garbage. Hot fucking garbage. That is not the way you're supposed to do it. And that goes for, in my mind, speech and debate also, is it's like, yeah, no, that is fucking grating and people don't want to hear it. And if you pay attention to commercials, that's not what it sounds like. It sounds like this. It sounds like what I'm doing right now. But I can't do that. I'm not a fucking actor. What is this? Who's this guy? Hey, water bottles.
Well, and then it's like when you do that, because I took my freshman year of college, I took a radio broadcasting class because I was like, that could be fun. But like the radio booth was like broken or something. So they had us, instead of doing radio broadcasting, they had us do like news anchor broadcasting.
Sure.
And again, my instinct was to do like Stephen Colbert on the Colbert Report cadence, right? Because like he's on TV and he delivers news.
Works for him.
And you better believe that my old school radio teacher hated that He was like, "No, this is the one way to do to be on the radio, and it's to do things exactly this way." Um, but also I tried to do like you were saying, or like we've been talking, to do it very casually. Like,
Yeah.
this is
We're
just
just
the
chatting.
information. I'm just telling you about it. But you do that, and then apparently that's also not
That's
okay
also bad.
because they're like, "No, you sound too casual. You
Yeah.
sound like you're just some guy telling me stuff."
Sound like a
It's like, that
special
is what
guy.
I'm doing. Yeah, yeah. It's like you need to be like a point of authority or something. It's
Yeah.
like people don't like that.
This will be. I'm going to make a genuine attempt at reading that same speech in
Okay.
how I was trained, which I stopped training because I wasn't getting any better and I was spending more money. So,
Okay.
similar to UCB. Okay, let's go. If I was really doing this though, you're supposed to imagine someone you're talking. So I'm talking to you. So I'm being casual. You can even roll into it. Like I this was always the worst because they tell you, and it is a good trick. They tell you to get into that, like write yourself an intro sentence. So imagine I'm talking to my friend Chris as if there would be a reason for me to give this speech that JFK gave.
By the way, I'm glad that you mentioned this one more time, and I don't mean to ruin your process here, but um, I just kind of took your word for it when you pasted it in the chat. But I don't think that this is a speech by JFK that you've posted in the
Oh,
chat.
it's not. It says Kennedy. What
It's-
is this? Oh,
I
this
don't know.
this is the description of the speech.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I wasn't listening to the context at all, which is what happens when you talk in that droning voice like that. And go,
Exactly.
on April 12th. That's very funny. This great speech that started by JFK on April 12th, 1961.
You guys remember the speech that ends in JFK saying, "When was the last time a president had the cojones to publicly issue a straightforward, ambitious goal and set a timeline for its success?"
That ends up actually even being better for both case points, because this is more something that someone on a YouTube channel would be saying, or someone in a commercial for the space race
for cojones.
for cojones. But they would recommend. So if okay, this is about, you study it. This is about the space race, the Soviets, and JFK giving a good speech. And why am I talking to my friend Chris about this? That's not something I would ever talk. So you come up with a reason. Chris just saw Interstellar, so we were talking about space, and that got me going. So I was like, on the subject of space, like, Chris, because you got to say the name, Chris, on the subject of space, on April 12th, 1961, the Soviets launched the first man into space. Khrushchev used this triumph as prime evidence of communism's superiority over decadent capitalism. See, even like right there, I start going like, superiority. And that's the shit they just
Right.
start beating out of you. Go, don't fucking do that. But it's just like, I
And
realize,
so
like,
what is it they want you to do? They want you to keep everything at the same level? Like,
they
what
want you to emphasize the right words and don't end any words in a question if there's not a question mark. It's the same thing. That's where I learned, like, because you have to slate. You have to say Evan Cox, da da da. And my instinct, I mentioned that in a long ago episode, my instinct is to go, Evan Cox? And they say,
Right.
not a question. Tell us your name. Evan Cox? Evan Cox. So I don't know. I have, and that's apparently a very common thing to just end random words as questions. superiority over decadent capitalism. It's like, no, that's a statement. So that's my best go, and that was a collective realization of just like, if that were to be my job, I would not like that.
Yeah.
Just on April 12th, and they want you to be your buddy. On April 12th, 1961, the Soviets launched the first man into space. Hey man, it's me, Jeff. It's
The feat would not only catapult the nation over the Soviet Union, but also allow man to more fully explore the mysteries of space, my guy.
they,
Just add my guy to the end of every
yes,
sentence.
there's a lot of
Let
that
them cut it
vibe of
out.
just like and uh eh you know this is my best impression of it. Soviets launched the first man into space. Eh, Khrushchev used this triumph as a prime evidence of communism's superiority over decadent capitalism. You know what I mean? Like,
You know what I
you
mean?
know what I'm talking
You
about?
know how these are words I say all the time?
Water, drink it. It's like, I know those jobs are still out there.
Yeah.
For someone to just say water, drink it.
Yeah.
This is Evan. Water.
Yeah, so I also
that was
like
a
the
long
idea of
segue.
coming up with a catchphrase for water bottles. Yours, of course, being get wet.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say water bottles, fill them up and slurp them down.
Water bottles soaked on the inside.
I like that. That's a good one.
Get wet.
Talking about other cadences that people people do, but we don't like.
Yeah, tear them down.
This is the How Do We Human or the How You Doing story I was going to tell at the top of How Do We Human. I have only watched the first episode of this documentary series, so there may be more to it than what I saw. But it
sounds like there's more episodes.
There might be more episodes because it kind of just ended.
Might be more to it than I saw. I just watched the first episode.
The story was pretty unresolved, and he said he was going to go to some other locations, but there might be more. But my fiance, her mom, and I did a 10K like 3 weeks ago.
Really?
And when we were done, we went back to our place, and my fiance was like, "Oh, mom, here's this documentary on the blue zones that we can watch." I had no idea what the blue zones were.
What the blue zones are.
But apparently it's like different parts of the world where like people are
voting Democrat.
Yep. And, where they're living the longest. So probably not voting Democrat. But,
yeah. Okay. I've never heard it called that, but I'm familiar with the concept.
Yeah, there's like 6 places or something around the world where people are consistently living to be like 100 years old or longer. And this guy, this is like a nitpick on both his cadence and on documentaries. Because this guy kind of decided that like a major character in the documentary should be himself.
It's my biggest gripe.
I can't. It's
maybe
like,
that's next
if
week.
You're like,
when I talk documentaries.
If you're like someone funny,
yeah,
and you're doing it like it that way, like the Daily Show. This is a little bit different because these are like field pieces and not documentaries.
But there's a reason for Jordan Klepper to be in his segments.
Exactly. But this
on the more even though all people don't love him, I would say like the documentary version of that is Michael Moore, where it's like you might not like him,
totally,
but there's an absolute reason he's there. He's doing something. It's performative.
Yeah, exactly. This guy, I'm trying to pull it up what he was most famous for. Because it's like not really something like, I think now he's become like a public speaker or whatever, talking about how to live a long time or whatever.
Start speaking,
but I think his big thing is that he like swam a like great distance or something. It was something like something completely unrelated to
Sure.
this.
Okay.
And now his thing that he kind of says multiple times is like, and in a very pretentious cadence.
Yeah.
He has a very pretentious, like, up his own ass voice, in
Yeah.
my opinion. um where he's like, the thing, like, it was up to me to solve this mystery of what it was that these people are doing to become centenarians, to live over 100 years
Hate
old.
it.
And the thing that, honestly, like, this doesn't really have to do with his voice, but the thing that bothered me the most about this episode that we watched is he's repeatedly like, these people living outside the hustle and bustle of big cities,
Yeah.
who are close to their families, who um have jobs that they love doing, and like lists all these things that, like, we all kind of know would
Right.
be like like lead to better lives,
Uh-huh.
right? And he kind of spins it and is like, I think the reason that they're living so long isn't like, he doesn't say it this way, but this is the takeaway, is like, it's not all these things that are leading to a like happier life. It's that they eat a lot of lentils. And it's like, what the, I'm sure that, like, of course eating healthy
Yeah.
means you're gonna, like, live longer, of course.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna tell me that they're eating lentils and that's what helps them live to 100 years old,
Yeah.
and not the fact that, like, they live happier lives in tight knit communities that are away from everyday modern city stresses,
Yeah.
I don't think it doesn't add up to
No.
me.
I've got a bajillion gripes about, because I love documentaries. And man, I had a similar on vocal cadence. There was a Oscar nominated documentary, The Fire of Love, which for the most part I
Oh yeah.
really loved. It's a great story about a couple of French volcanologists, and their story is fascinating. The voiceover is done by Miranda July, I believe her name is. Director, actress, did Me, Myself, and Everyone You Know. I never saw it. Heard it was good. Everything she says sounds like she's reading a poem. But she's
Oh
just
yeah.
going like they walked every day across the volcanoes, but it's read like daily across the volcanoes they would walk, looking
Yeah. Oh, I hate this.
looking as if it were a city street. Just like, stop it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally,
That stuff bothers me
that in
too.
particular, I don't think, and the same with whatever. I haven't seen the documentary you're watching, but so many of these documentaries, I think, would be stronger without narration at all. You might be confused at a few moments, and you could put in title cards. You
Sure.
could specifically ask someone on the street to say something for you. I don't know, just
Yeah.
like uh it hurts. And anytime
Yeah.
if you're watching a documentary and they say, I think that the reason this is
Yeah.
happening is this, that's not a documentarian, that's a ego trip.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. I mean, there's, yeah, there's definitely a lot of different versions of that. We've talked
Yes,
before about
Chris.
um, Attenborough doing
Yes.
all of those. That's a great narrator.
Yeah,
We love to see that.
absolutely.
Keith David is also
Yeah.
a pretty good
Hell
narrator.
yeah.
So that, I mean,
They're
they're out
out
there, but
there.
it is the, like, it is that sort of level of pretension
Yeah.
that really gets under my skin.
I think it's like, it feels like people don't give enough, or maybe they do, and that's where they show their card in their sleeve. But like, it feels like people don't put enough thought into what the narration should sound like. If you're going to use narration, I don't know if people are thinking about how much it 100% changes the vibe of what you're watching. If I'm watching something like Fire and Love, I'm watching something like super fucking cool. The footage is amazing, but someone is doing the like, I don't know, the Lord of the Rings intro voice, which I'm like, that is a perfect tone for that.
Yeah.
It is not a perfect tone for this. I don't know. Tone of voice changes a lot, and audiences don't like to be talked down to.
No, I think it's that, and I think it is also like and plenty of fictional or fiction movies do this as well, where you just like don't trust the audience, so you want to
Yeah,
like
spell it out.
really hold their hand. Yeah.
I
This
wanna
kind of
hold
goes
your
back a little
hand.
bit um to like your voice classes, but
Mm-hmm.
my dad and I for a period of time did like a volunteer sort of charity nonprofit work where um we would come in and we would have like we would get a book and then go into a booth, and we were like just basically reading, like creating audiobooks in a way.
Okay.
But I think it was before, maybe before audiobooks were like super popular.
Yeah.
Because it was like specifically reading so that like books that weren't in braille, like
Mm-hmm.
blind people could listen to.
Got it.
And it at the time, I think both of us felt like, oh, this will be kind of fun because we like to kind of flex those like performative muscles or
Yeah.
whatever. And I think because I was still in high school, I think maybe I was in college, but I think I was in high school when this happened and we were doing this. But I would get such boring books. Like I think he got to do a couple like fiction books, but mine were like textbooks, and it
Ouch.
was just brutal to get through. I was like, don't. Certainly blind people would like to read and experience fun stuff, right?
Yeah. That I think that is just
Don't you want to
any.
hear 50 Shades of Grey read by a 17-year-old boy?
I was going to say I would, but that is criminal. I would not want to hear that.
I'm gonna
But
find.
I would like to retroactively hear 17-year-old Chris reading that. But
I'm gonna find. I'm gonna Google most shocking passages from 50 Shades of Grey, and maybe you and I can both read some.
oh boy. But that is, yeah, it's the same idea of just like, I don't know why just like using your voice seems like, oh, it's fun. We all do it. We do it all day. We do silly voices and whatever. Or maybe not everyone does. I do silly voices all day. And but entering a career of it, like that would be the idea of like, oh my god, I would love to do audiobooks. Like if I could do the George R.R. Martin books and come up with a voice for every character. And the reality is like, yeah, sure, 20 years down the road after you've read every word of a third grade math textbook aloud. And
Yeah.
it's like, bad, bad.
I'm looking at some of these passages from 50 Shades of
How's that
Grey,
going
and
for you?
I regret some of these
That's
decisions that have led me here. So maybe we won't do that. I'll let you decide. I have a couple other things to talk about, and of course, we do have
I have one
a
more thing to talk
listener
about. Oh, and we never
prompt
have.
as
Oh,
well.
that's right.
Which kind of segues into the next thing I wanted to talk about, actually.
Oh
But
boy.
and that's like character voices. So
Mm-hmm.
like we'll kind of lump all these things together. But like I this past weekend I played Dungeons and
All
Dragons for
right.
like the second time ever.
Yeah.
And it was pretty fun, but
Okay.
some people kind of give their character a voice.
Yeah. Nice.
And
Mm.
they're I don't know if you have like a go-to character voice or if it's an impression. And this kind of segues into the listener question
Mm.
from Jordan Parker of like, in terms of accents, are there accents that you like to do, or conversely you like to listen to?
Of course. I think it's pretty clear that we both enjoy doing an Irish accent, and it's maybe the loveliest accent to listen to, I would say.
It's
I
up
put
there, yeah.
I put French up there too. I love a French accent.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Um
But we can't
it
forget
I
about the
do
babies.
Yeah, I mean, I find the Irish accent really difficult to do, but I do like
I,
to do it.
not to interrupt, but when
Yeah.
I was in high school, I don't even know what I was planning to do, but I was just a library kid. I spent a lot of time at the library and checked out things constantly, and I checked out a series of cassette tapes teaching you how to do an Irish accent, and I listened through those. And to this day, I don't know why I did that, but I really wanted to be able to do a convincing Irish accent, and that's where the babies comes from. It's
Yeah.
accurate.
I think we both also like to do like a British accent,
Sure.
an Australian accent, because once you start one, it's gonna turn into the other.
Oh yes, soon enough.
I also like to do a Scottish accent.
It's fun.
And I mean German accent can be fun. But I think we also both like to do like a New York accent. Yeah.
Hey. I
Um
like to actively not do good accents
yeah.
now. I'm not getting cassette tapes. It's more fun. This is a series. A How Do We Humans series on cassette tape is how to do bad accents that are funny.
Yeah.
Because that is so popular in comedy right now. We got to be doing more accents. We got to spread out
Yeah,
other
more
parts
offensive
of the
accents.
world. Yeah. Some
I'll also shout
undug
out
ground.
like Spanish accents can be very
Yeah,
nice to listen to,
that's true.
like Antonio Banderas,
I'll listen to
a
that, man.
Salma Hayek. Those are
I'll listen to the
those
two of
are
them.
nice, soothing voice. You can in Puss in Boots.
I did
um,
in Puss in Boots and the Hitman's bodyguard.
oh yeah, good pull.
It
Um,
was.
but yeah, I part of why I bring up the Dungeons and Dragons thing is like one of the main guys who really liked to, it was very much like a performer kind of guy,
Yeah.
because the thing about Dungeons and Dragons, at least the two times that I've played,
Yeah.
is like
Experts.
usually there's like one or two people who's
Yes.
like, I want to be doing everything. And
Yeah.
everybody else kind of like tries to get in and do or say some stuff, but you're gonna have a couple players who really need to be involved at every turn.
That was the biggest problem. I only played it the one time, and the biggest problem I had was not having a clear grasp on like, am I just supposed to cut in and do
Yeah,
something, or am I waiting? There's not really waiting for your turn unless you're like rolling for something.
yeah.
Uh, Trouble.
But he and I both initially had the same instinct, and I kind of had to back off of it because I wasn't contributing as much. So, but to both kind of go for that New York uh, accent. So I just kind
Yeah.
of fell back into my own voice. But yeah, that's sort of, I think my kind of go to is sort of a New England, New York
Sure, yeah.
kind of cranky voice. um,
It's a good way to go.
yeah. Anything else that you would?
I I have one last specific thought and feeling about me voice. I
Yeah.
remember as a young man, I'd say 16, 17, my teen years. I'd been making music for a few years at that point. Me and my friend Robbie were getting together a lot. We were in a band together, but then we're also like just fucking around with acoustic guitars and coming up with stuff, and it was really fun. And I remember at a point, I think I was driving us somewhere, and specifically talking to Robbie and saying to him, like, I can't, because again, you're that age, you're kind of post puberty, but you still have like not a kid voice, but you know what I mean, adolescent
Yeah.
voice. Your voice cracking here and there, but yeah, whatever. You could tell when a young person's talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I look at other people and I can tell the difference between the voice of someone that's 15 and the voice of someone that's 35. And I
Yeah.
remember saying to Robbie, like, in terms of singing voice, because I hated my singing voice at the time, I was like, I can't wait until I'm older and I at least sound like an adult when I'm singing. And I don't hear that. I don't hear that there was ever that change in my mind. I have the same voice because I've had a deep voice since I was like 13. And so I know that I do sound older, but in my mind I still sound exactly the same as I did when I was like 15. And I hate that.
Yeah.
Do I sound like an adult?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Is that just a me thing?
It
I
might
want to
be.
sound my age. And maybe I do, but I never will in my head. I still sound like a teenager to me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think so. I think your voice is certainly deep
Ah,
enough to where it's an adult.
hello. Is
Also
that
things
Chris?
also certain things that you say are like no teenager would say this.
What?
No teenager would say in my teen years.
In my teen years, I mean now.
Now.
Well, that's about that. I don't know. A lot of voice notes, you might say.
Sure, you might.
You might. I
Um
don't know what voice notes are. People talk about voice notes. And I'm like,
haven't
do you
you
just mean
received I guess that's a voice like memo or something
I
through because it's
don't
not quite a
know.
voicemail that you've gotten, um but yeah, I do I like you talking about like text to speech
I don't
stuff.
know what I'm talking about.
Cool.
It's a big thing in the music making community that you'll just like record a little snippet of a song or just you humming to something and say, like, oh yeah, using my voice notes as if it's an app. Maybe it is an app, but I can't find it. I don't know what the fuck people are talking about.
This is an adult sentence. This is not a teenager.
I
Uh
did it. That's what I need to write songs about. What are all you
yeah,
stupid
write a song about trying to figure
trying
out
to understand
what
voice
voice notes
notes?
are. Um, you can listen to this podcast anywhere that you get your podcasts on Spotify, on Amazon
Mhm.
Music, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, HowDoWeHuman.com, anywhere that you get your podcasts. You can rate, review, comment, subscribe, follow any of those different prompts. You can also check us out on our social media. You can use our social media also as a way to give us things that you want us to talk about. We've been putting out some prompts the last couple weeks, trying
Use
to
it.
engage you guys more.
Use it and abuse it like the passages from 50 Shades of Grey Chris didn't want to read.
Hey, and maybe that's how we end the episode. We'll see. But one of those social media platforms is Instagram at HowDoWeHuman.
We got that handle.
Check us out on Facebook at HowDoWeHuman.
I don't think you're ready for that handle.
YouTube at HowDoWeHuman.
This is my handle. This is my spout.
Oh, or send us an email to howdowehumanpod@gmail.com.
The best part of that handle is that it's an address.
Okay.
Okay.
Evan, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah. I think, aren't we past the fact that nobody likes?
Oh,
are we past this? We're close. We've talked about it.
We're getting there.
We've talked about being past it, and maybe we will be. Let us know what you think at HowDoWeHuman. We got that handle. I think we are past the struggle of hating the sound of our voice recorded, or just hating the sound of our voice in general. I think once you're an adult, you should be able to choose your own voice, just like you can choose your own name. And I would be curious to hear what everyone's voice they would choose for themselves would be. So I'm working on it. It's just a little device, like you hold it up to your neck if you have emphysema and talk through your smoking hole. But just choose your own voice. Right now I'm calling it the Word Audible Nodule Kit, and pick one up at Barnes & Noble, I'm hoping.
Great.
Yeah, that stands for wank. Chris?
Yep.
What do you got going on?
I was thinking, now that there's been that every football conversation has actually become about our celebrity doppelganger Taylor Swift.
Apparently. So weird.
Every sideline interview, every post game press conference, it's all about Taylor Swift.
Pretty much.
And I want to bring more of that to the NFL.
Sure.
Which is why I want to turn football games into like big celebrity events. I think that there should be a red carpet going into the stadium.
That's a great idea.
I think that all the players, even though they've all got their jerseys, I think they should all be asked, "Who are you wearing?" So I want to turn the NFL into a big glamorous event.
That sounds fun.
Thank you.
Get glammed up and watch a Seahawks game.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Evan,
yes.
Do you have any interest in reading a line from 50 Shades of Grey?
Send me a line. I'll see what happens.
Pick a number between 1 and 50.
Oof. You wouldn't let me pick 69. Wow.
No, sorry.
33.
33. All right. Let me, would you like it up on the screen or would you like it in the
I'll
chat?
just post it to the chat.
Okay.
I'll cover this.
All right. And then, I'll have you also choose a number for me and we'll each read a line from 50 Shades of Grey. I have just now sent you, line 33. This is from an article, 50 terrible lines from 50 Shades of Grey.
It feels appropriate to give you 18, the age of consent.
Great. Okay. And is there any direction you'd like to give on how to read it?
You're saying this to me, so you need a lead-in sentence. It's like, okay. Evan.
Yeah, okay.
And keep it casual.
Keep it casual.
Yeah.
You got it, dude.
Okay.
Evan, like, I know that our friend just left, but suppose he returns with a cane or some weird kinky implement.
Suppose he does.
Suppose he returns with a cane or some weird kinky implement.
Chris.
Yeah.
I know, same guy. Our friend he did just leave.
Yeah.
He has a coffee which bears a wonderful leaf pattern imprinted on the milk. How do they do that? I wonder idly. I want to end more sentences with "I wonder idly."
I wonder idly. Well, pretty good job on picking ones who were not really that filthy.
Yeah,
there are a lot of other ones that are, and
fantastic. We'll
and
put out our audiobook.
That'd be Should HowDoWeHuman do a bunch of unlicensed audiobooks of erotica?
Yeah.
Let us know. Get at us. Send us an email if that's what you want.
Get at us.
Okay, bye.